Whenever I've got guitar stuff that starts going into lead territory and leaving rhythm territory, I like doing the overdrive bass track as well. So it kind of fills in the space between where bass is, which is down here, and guitar, which is up here. This empty spot right in between, I like to fill in that space. I mean, I actually like to fill in that space always, but that's because I like rock and roll.
Cool.
So realistically, what I do, well, there's a couple ways to do it. You can either bus this bass to a bus and make two different returns for it, one of them being clean, one of them being an overdrive, or you can just duplicate the track. Sometimes I actually just prefer to duplicate the track because I might end up editing out a lot of finger noise and things like that on the overdrive track. So let's try doing that. We'll start with an overdrive duplicate.
Sweet. So yeah, this is some of the workflow that Kenny did last week. I don't think we actually touched on specifically bass processing. So again, what we're doing is we're simply just duplicating the track and going to apply another round of effects on it. So I'm just going to take out the sends and the inserts. Actually, do you want me to leave the inserts in, Ryan?
Leave the insert, but get rid of the sends.
Gotcha. Alrighty. So we got that bass processing track duplicated right in here.
Cool.
And then you reach for the Sans amp, or what do you reach for?
I reach for the Sans amp, and ultimately I'm probably even going to push that one band up even higher.
Okay. So we'll take the Sans amp, throw it in there.
Let's skip a slot though. Let's move down by one slot, so we've got an empty space above it.
Okay. Like that.
No. Put the one band right at the start again.
Sorry.
That is kind of corrective and cleanup. That's always going to be there,
Gotcha. Very cool.
So the Sans amp, I mean, basically, again, the idea here is to bring the bass halfway between where the guitar is and where the bass is.
I see.
The Sans amp is really, really good for this, but also it can get a little bit out of control. But also you can have some absurd fun with it. So my starting point for the Sans amp is with the low maxed out and the high maxed out.
With the, say that again?
The low knob on it, max it out. The high knob on it, max it out.
Alrighty.
Let's unsolo the clean bass for a minute and take a listen to this.
Okay.
Oh, I want way more drive than that. Let's push the drive a little.
So now we're like clipping territory.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of control there as well, so you got to pull that back.
Something like that.
Oh, I go even more distorted than that.
All right, I'll just crank up the drive.
All right, cool. Let's stop there for a second. You know how I said leave an empty slot in between?
Yep.
That's because we're going to put an API 550B in there, and we're going to push it into the Sans amp even harder.
All right, cool. Well, considering I'm not currently on the 550B, let's go ahead and
let's see what you got.
Let's go ahead and reach for the we can reach for the Fab Filter Pro Q.
Sure. I just want lots of harmonically rich stuff going on.
Cool. Yep. Alrighty. And what do you want to do with this guy?
Somewhere between 125 and 25. We're just going to boost a ton of it.
125 and 25?
Yeah. Like 1.25K.
125K.
2.5K. Not.
Sorry.
It's all good. Okay. When I say boost a ton, I mean 6 dB plus.
Alrighty.
Listen to what that sounds like. Listen to how it distorts. Hopefully it distorts in a lovely way.
All right.
Probably push the gain on that a little bit more too.
All right.
There you go. Cool. Let's stop there. That sounds great. It sounds really crunchy and big and aggressive and annoying.
Yeah.
So after that Sans amp, I'll put something like an LA2, either the LA2 or an LA2 clone, and let it push it back as well and let it really crush it dynamically. The CLA2 is fantastic.
Cool. So in here, you pretty much just throw the peak reduction all the way down.
Somewhere around 70.
Alrighty, right about there. And
Yeah.
do you do anything with the screw in here, or you just leave it where it is?
But I always turn analog off on this one. I don't know why. It just whatever. It's less noisy.
Yep. And what about limit? You keep this thing on compress or limit?
It depends. It depends on the playing. This one's actually pretty mellow bass playing, so you could probably do compress. If there's slap stuff going on, sometimes limit helps you out a little bit more.
Cool. Very cool. And then let's take a listen.
That sounds pretty gritty and pretty smooth, though.
Yeah.
So let's pull this fader all the way down. Let's solo up the clean bass as well, and then we'll start bringing this up to see what they do together.
All right. I'll just stop this processing. We'll start over here. What do you think about that?
I think it sounds great. What's nice about having this on a separate track is that you don't need to leave it on all the time.
Yep.
So when you hit a verse, you can have the bass be very clean and, you know, kind of smooth, a little less aggressive. Then when you hit the chorus or the guitar solo a bit, you can let the aggressiveness of the bass cut through. In fact, when the whole mix is going, in fact, if you unsolo it now, you can probably hear it. When the whole mix is going, you can push this distorted bass a lot hotter than you think you should be able to when it's soloed. And it'll still fit really well, and it'll still, you know, have some smoothness to it. Give it a shot. Hit play. Push up. Yes. Get it out and see what it sounds like without it.
Alrighty. Maybe kick it up a little bit more.
Yeah.
I was hanging out with some friends of mine down in Hollywood.
Yeah, that's pretty killer the way that sounds.
It kind of brings up where the harmonics of it really are, so that it's a little higher range. So on my laptop, I can hear bass pretty clearly once you start doing that. Whereas prior, bass is there, but it's not very easy to tell the notes that are being played.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So are we? So technically, we're adding a lot of harmonic distortion to this bass using the Sans amp, and then we're just crushing it with this LA2A. And what I'm noticing is that we're actually getting a more of a smoother response out of this bass when it's applied to the entire mix. It's coming through a little bit clearer, and it's actually a little bit smoother too, which is really interesting.
Right. Well, that's what the LA2 is doing after the Sans amp. Without that, it's a little gritty, and the dynamics of the playing really start standing out in sometimes an annoying way. If someone hits really hard, all of a sudden it's just really in your face. But the LA2 is really pulling it back to a place where it's controlled.
Yeah. Cool. So if you guys can see that, what we're doing is we've got the filter on the very first slot there. We threw in the Sans amp. You can check out the settings right there. Pretty much just got drive kicked up, low kicked up, high kicked up, and that's about all we did to that. And then to get more graininess out of there, I just threw up the Pro Q. I think EQ will work. Actually, I think Ryan favorites the API 550B, and that one. But yeah, kick up the about, what was he said, 1.25K right in there, and then just throw in the LA2A and crush it. So yeah, that's a pretty nifty little trick there for bass processing. Oh, and then we kind of wrote it in very slightly, kind of like we would with a parallel compression technique.
Right.
Very cool.